Hey guys, and welcome to the Digital Dentistry Decoded podcast. Dr. Ahmad Al-Hassiny here from the Institute of Digital Dentistry. We have a very special episode today. We are in Las Vegas at DS World 2025. This marks a big milestone for Dentsply Sirona, the 40th anniversary of CEREC. And we have two amazing people from Dentsply Sirona here with me. We have Max Milz. Hello, Max, and welcome.
Hey, Ahmed. Good to see you.
And the new CEO, Dan Scavilla. A big welcome to you, and thanks so much for giving us this time and joining us.
Thanks, I'm going to appreciate it.
And I guess we just jump into it, guys. Look, firstly, thanks so much for joining me. It's an honor to be in this room with you. Dan, I want to start with you, my friend. You're the new CEO. How many weeks has it been now?
So
or months?
We're in week 6. How's that?
Amazing.
So yeah, still working through it.
Still fresh.
Still fresh.
And Max, we'll talk about everything DS World and all the exciting things.
Okay.
Dan, let's jump in. Please tell us about yourself. I mean, I'm sure we all want to know who is the next big boss here at Dentsply Sirona and leading the charge. So please, a little bit about you and your history. And
certainly, and thanks for this. I appreciate the time. So I actually started as a finance guy with Johnson & Johnson out of school. Worked there about 28 years and had a chance to work through many different companies for them, med device, pharmaceutical, consumer healthcare. So a great way to look at a broad base of business. About 10 years ago, I left and I became a public CFO for Globus Medical. That was a small spine company, and what we did is wound up actually not only growing spine, but launching robotics, creating proceduralization, beginning with planning, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and actually shifted from widgets into the whole ecosystem type approach. I became CEO there about 4 years ago, and then joined the board of Dentsply Sirona. And really digging into that after about 6 months, I met great guys like Max and a lot of team members, and I honestly wanted to become part of the team. And so I asked the board, and with the changes, I had stepped in. I'm really glad that I did. It's a great place to be.
That's incredible, man. 6 weeks in. First question I have is, how do you find dentistry? It must be very interesting compared to medical.
Well, you know, it is, but it's also some similarity, right? In the fact you are treating a patient. It matters a great deal to that patient, how you do it and what you do. There's a variety of different ways to do this. And so the more that you can put that skill, that repeatability into a dentist's hands, the better you are. And so if you look at, again, that machine learning, that proceduralization, all of the things that Max and the team are bringing to us through DS Core, that is the future of dentistry. It's something that we had done in spine, and I see it having a significant change in the growth of how dentistry is done over the next couple of years.
Is it, I mean, it's kind of incredible that you come in with fresh eyes in a way into this whole industry. And what do you think of this whole digitization that's happening? Is it similar to what was happening in medical, or?
It is, right? You have so many data points to think about as a dentist as you're treating somebody, and you probably spend so much time thinking about every single angle that you want to do it. The more that you can standardize that or have a machine make recommendations for you to tweak, you actually reduce your cognitive burden. It allows you to focus more on what you want to try and what you want to give the patient. I happen to think that it actually can give you more optionality and possibly better outcomes, more creativity from you and your counterparts. And so if you can take those standard things and make them repeatable and predictable, I think it allows you to go further as a dentist.
Is that what you saw in your previous job? I mean, I don't really, spines, widgets, I don't really...
Yeah, I really did.
But I'd love to hear more, to be honest. Sounds super interesting.
Well, so with spine, the way it started out, of course, you have pedicle screws and all different things that you're doing, and you have well-established surgeons. When we came up with robots that helped you place those, the first thing that says, I don't need that. I know how to do it, right? And those well-established surgeons that said that became our biggest advocates for using our robotic technology and our planning and our data and our ecosystem, because the seamless flow of data from pre-planning to post-planning or post-surgery follow-up all knitted together that allowed them to get probabilities, outcomes, better thoughts about different ways to do this. And the machines and robots themselves actually took away a lot of the thought process, given that you're right near the spinal cord, of where to place things. It would allow you to do it in a different way so that they can enhance their treatments. I see the exact thing occurring with dentistry. We're going to build the foundation through DS Core, through CEREC, all of those things. And we're just going to allow you to start getting that machine data in, look at probability of hundreds, if not thousands of patients, start deciding what you want to do to have better outcomes and stronger results.
It's kind of fascinating. I mean, and I'm sure there's a lot of parallels with medical and dental, of course. is it the standard of care now? The robotics? Is it?
It is becoming. I would say it's 15% penetrated, but you and I have a different conversation in 3 years.
Yeah. Kind of like digital. I think digital is a little bit more mature in dentistry, but it's definitely it's seen as the standard of care now, which is fascinating to see because Max would know 5-6 years ago when you talk to people about intraoral scanners, they used to think you're like you're crazy.
It's science fiction, right?
It's crazy. And they used to look at you like, how could it be possibly accurate as impression? And now that's all changed.
Right.
So dentistry, you came in, fresh eyes. Is there anything in particular you're really like looking into or focused into, or anything that sticks out that's fascinating for you?
Yeah, there's really a couple of things. So the first is when I look at Dentsply Sirona's portfolio, I think we have amazing products. I really do. I think the innovation engine is strong and can be stronger. That's a great base to build from. I think we have great dentists who are loyal and willing to work with us, all good stuff. I think we were too internally focused, might have lost sight of our customer and patient. That's going to be a big change that we're making fairly soon. We have to look outward to the patient in the chair, through your eyes, through your hands. Use that innovation, that education, that training in a way that can make it go stronger than I think we have done in the recent past. So there's some internal thinking about how to change the mindset to become a better partner for you so that we can become even a bigger presence in the dental market.
And I guess that is almost a good lead on to everything we're talking about in this event, which congratulations to both of you. It's a milestone event for the company, and it's all about connected dentistry and empowering dentists and empowering communities. And Max, I guess it's a good way for you to jump in and tell us in an elevator pitch all the new stuff that is coming.
No, it's definitely. I mean, it's very exciting, right? I mean, you mentioned it's 40 years of CEREC. That's a big milestone because that's when digital dentistry started, right? It's the same time that Back to the Future came out, right, with the DeLorean, but now it also came out with the CEREC system, right? And you talked about, well, it felt like science fiction 8 years ago. Matter of fact, it's already been around for a while, right? But then if you think about digital X-ray and CBCT and all 3D printing, all of that coming in, and you see amazing individual solutions from many different players, right? But what's lacking is something that brings it together. And that's also where there's a step change in the technology, because a lot of the limitations are you have APC with a software connected to a device that does something, right? But bringing them together to say, how do I use my X-ray images, my cone beam images, my intraoral scans together to diagnose, to figure out what's the treatment plan, and then dentistry has a special element, and that's the manufacturing piece, right? Because you always make something patient-specific in many, many cases, right? Whether it's crowns, whether it's inlays, whether it's night guards, and so forth. And our entire mindset was about how can we create an overarching solution, much like CEREC is a great integrated workflow for indirect restoration, chairside. How do we make that at scale? And this year at DS World, we're taking another step, right? We built a foundation with DS Core. We put in imaging capabilities. We put in intraoral scanning capabilities. We connected stuff with it. Then we brought out PrimeScan to the first cloud-based scanner. And now we're actually going to the level where it gets really interesting, and that's bringing design capabilities into it. Right? I mean, that's the big new things. You can design directly in DS Core for CEREC, but of course, that's just a starting point for then doing all the other plannings in there. In addition, there's 3D diagnostic capabilities directly in DS Core, independent from where you are. And of course, there's more and more AI, right? So integrations with 2D AI players like Videa and Pearl, then 3D AI capabilities like a Smart View, which automatically shows you the bone, the teeth, the nerve canal. Then, of course, CEREC always had AI for many, many years with the biogeneric algorithms to give you crown proposals. Of course, we've worked on those. We've improved those. Automatic margin finders, workflow assistance. So it's really embedding AI into the workflows. And AI itself doesn't solve anything. It's a tool. It's a normal technology in a way. And it's about how do you use it to make dentistry better, empowering dentists, assisting them in the practice of dentistry. And that's what this is all about. And it's a big milestone. And we're very excited to be here.
Yeah, man. I mean, I guess it's something that he's good at that, isn't he?
He's great, yeah.
He's so good at that. It's a totally. It's something that we've been begging for as dentists. And it's the classic kind of, you built the foundation first, and we've talked about this a lot, where when you build a house, the foundation is never the interesting part. And poor Max has been on the brunt of 2 years of everyone telling him, DS score sucks, and we don't get it, and we don't get the vision, and all of that. And now you're actually starting to see
the progress
and the product. And I think this CAD on the cloud is something that's going to be really special, because I think we all know, at least me, Max, and Dan, now you know, CEREC has the best chairside CAD on the market.
Absolutely.
By a long shot. And to have that go onto the cloud, and not only that, it just, I think, opens it up to a large population of dentists now, more than ever before.
Yeah, and I think that's opening it up to a larger population. I think that's the big theme here, right? So CEREC has been very closed. It's much more open now, right? You can also use a trio scanner with it.
Which is mind-blowing.
You can
that's
export
a big one.
STLs,
That's
right?
a big
So
one.
that's two things.
You jump around that,
sides,
but I
right?
feel like we need to repeat it again. It's like an underline. For the first time in history, you can use trios with CEREC software.
It's really an amazing stepping stone, right? And if you think about it, CEREC, and it's interesting, you said robotic adoption in spine, 15% or so? CEREC is around 20% globally, and some in more advanced market, actually New Zealand, Australia is higher than that. But what's keeping it from being mass adopted? Because the benefits of single visit dentistry are so clear.
Yeah,
I mean, your
super
patients love you, but they don't want to see you more than necessary, right? So if you can get a crown done or an inlay or an onlay in an hour and the complete treatment is done, that's better for everyone. It saves you money, saves the patient time, saves the patient pain. It's all of that. And there are really two barriers that kept it from being more mass adopted. One is people felt it's difficult to design. They're afraid of it, even though you know it's not difficult.
No, not hard.
It's not
The
hard,
learning curve
right?
is much easier than before.
Exactly, right? And now with more AI capabilities, you can supercharge that. And the second thing is an affordability topic. The CEREC software, very expensive. The Primemill, very expensive. So by putting the design capabilities in DS Core, we make it more accessible, right? Because it's more affordable. You can learn as you go. You can grow into more capabilities. And by having a more differentiated milling portfolio, not just a 4-motor Primemill, but a 2-motor version, which is good enough for people who want to do Emacs and other glass ceramics. And also the CEREC Go, which really opens up affordability for people who want to get into chairside, right? It can only mill composites. But if you think about class 2 procedures, that's also composite. Right, you can replace a complex class 2 with an inlay or an onlay, and with the speed of a prime scan, you scan in a minute, design proposal on DS Core in under a minute, you mill the inlay in 90 seconds.
It's done.
That where's the barrier, right? So I think that's about expanding access, opening it up, and I think that's the new era that's starting.
I can say it's foolproof because Max tested it on me, and I was able to make a design and actually
That's right.
myself. And
Did
so
you actually? What did you think when you saw that?
I was amazed.
Amazed, right?
I really was amazed. And you know, it's the same type of thing. It is just that ability to have all of that power at your fingertips, and you make the decisions what to do, and you can treat that customer in that chair right there. That is just power. And I love the fact that we're a small part of that.
I think, you know, dentistry and dentists in general, it's a funny game, because I think dentists are genuinely numb to all of this. Why? Because they get battered by this so much by everyone. Everyone's telling them to digitize. I'm telling them constantly that you're an idiot if you're not digitizing. I'm allowed to say that to dentists. You guys are telling them, and they see it all the time. They see it in scanners, they see it in CAD, they see it in milling. But, you know, it's actually incredible the technology we get access to as clinicians. And someone from the outside, when you see this, especially your patients, when they come into your practice, huge trust builder. Like, we're numb to it because we see it all the time, but your patients, when they see this, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's a little piece of magic,
Yeah,
you know?
it really is.
It's incredible.
It really is. You think about your scanning, and then you're designing, and then it's made. Patients, you know, mind-blown, literally. And it's funny what you mentioned about, you know, the speed of it, because there's been a lot of surveys and literature published on single visit dentistry, and because I'm also puzzled why it's not as popular as it is, because it's changed my practice completely. But there's been a lot of surveys about, you know, they survey patients, and they say, you know, would you change your dentist if you could get a crown in a single visit? And a lot of us think we have goodwill with our patients, and 2/3 say yes, they would. And it harks back to the kind of idea that the only thing better than free is fast. You know, and how much do we pay as a premium to get something fast?
Right.
Whether it's Amazon Prime, and having that workflow just running is a total game changer for any practice.
Absolutely. And if you think about it, right, if you can cut a 90-minute procedure to a 60-minute procedure, and it's really just that after half an hour, you can treat another patient, right?
And also, just, I mean, if you're doing single visit dentistry, I mean, for a dentist, here's little things that actually make a big change. The fact they only have to numb them up once.
Right.
Yeah.
Out of the whole procedure, the thing that most patients hate is the injection. It's not the
course.
drilling. I mean, the sound kind of sucks.
Why it's so comfortable to get an injection into your gum.
Yeah, I know, right? And so being able to do that all and only having to numb them up once is like a huge thing, because by the time you finish, they're still numb. And so it's those little things that are amazing. But I want to throw the mic back to you, Dan. And I'm really curious with medical and dental, after everything that you've seen that's been released, and you said the adoption curves, is there like parallels that you see from your medical experience that you want to put into dental?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, we could go on with this, but just a couple of things. Back to your talk about a practice. If you are advertising, even if it's word of mouth, and you're on the cutting edge and it's a single visit, it's all these things, people will gravitate towards you. And so there's just a natural recruiting of, if you want to have people come work with you, if you want to have new patients come in, that's out there. And I saw that with spine. We started putting these robots in ORs, and people would drive hundreds of miles to have their surgery done robotically. It was just a natural draw. And I see the same thing occurring here. I think the accumulation of all of that data, but making it actionable over time, is going to be so powerful, because if you can start running probability curves based on someone's age, the quality of their teeth, the smoker, whatever you want, you can start figuring out outcomes in a better pace over time as you calculate that data and use it, and unreleasing that from what I think is now static data. So I see that parallel occurring here over time. I think that this is a platform to do it. I recognize it from sitting at the board table and saying, when you turn that live, and it's not really, well, I love artificial intelligence, I always want the dentist to make the final decision, not a machine, not an outcome, you. And I think that having that at your fingertips, I see that clearly coming down this path.
Is the barriers of adoption medical very similar to dental? From what you've seen, or is it different?
The price points are very different. So,
what was the price point of robots? Like millions?
It was about 2.5 million. It's a little bit different.
Dentist will have a fight with you over...
Exactly. Let's put that price point out there.
Let's take a few decimals down, eh? Let's cut off 2 zeros off the end.
Right.
Maybe 3.
These were big things. And, think about what, what it was doing. And so, yeah, they over time will become more affordable. But you're just right in the very beginning of it. But again, I think just the ultimate, how do we get technology in your hands, make it seamless, create an ecosystem so you focus more on the patient, less on how do I do it, but just what do I want to do. And I feel like that will make stronger outcomes over time.
In medical, who's driving the education? Because I feel like with all technology, whichever industry it is, it's like the education is such a key part. And I feel like a big barrier is educating the doctors to be able to do it. Who is driving it in medical?
I agree. It's a great question. Certainly the root comes from the company, right? We're going to develop a robot. We're going to show you what it does. But nothing is more powerful than actual surgeons who have used it to say, this is what I do. And I sat with some of the top spine surgeons in the world, learning from people that might be 2 years out of school and loving it. And so there was a great willingness to learn from not only peers, but everyone there. It was a great group. But I think there's nothing more powerful than you and your counterparts using technology as you do with scanners and coming out and say, here's what I think. That will always trump a company saying, this is what my product does.
That's fascinating.
100% agree.
Yeah, I agree with them, because I did a survey a few years ago. It was actually published just across the world, just surveying dentists on different products and digital and all of that. And one of the questions in this huge survey was, why did you buy the scanner you bought? Which one and what was the reason? And we gave all the classic reasons: cost, brand, a referral from a friend, a bunch of reasons. And number one by a clear margin was referral from a colleague or a friend.
100%.
By more than cost, more than brand, more than anything.
Dentistry is all about peer-to-peer, and that's why education is so important, right? I mean, you run education here in Las Vegas. Obviously, we have our partners that also run education, but that's really it, right? And dentistry has one thing that makes it, I think, particularly cool. And that is, dentists are entrepreneurs, right? I mean, you run your own practice. You can take quick decisions. You're convinced of something, you go for it, right? And if you're in a more medical field, very often it's in a big procurement process in a hospital, and it takes months to get anything done. If you like it, you're convinced, you're going to I'm going to sign that check, put it into my practice tomorrow. And that also kind of has a potential to speed up adoption of innovation if you're willing to take that leap of faith into something, right? And dentistry is, I think, really cool because a dentist has so many different hats, right? I mean, let's walk away from you because you do all sorts of other amazing things that most people don't do. But you run a business, you're a surgeon, you're a radiologist, you're also basically the manufacturer that makes stuff for it. You manage a practice team, and all these challenges are different, right? Staff, really hard to find, right?
It's probably the worst challenge, by the
right?
way. That's always a pain in the neck.
I'm sure.
And on staff, I think there's two underlooked things about the value of digital. You get better staff with a more modern practice because assistants don't want to work in an old rundown place. They're like, no, I want to do the cool thing, right? I mean, if they're not just, doing hygiene, but they can also scan and they can do other things, you're enriching their job. That makes you more attractive as an employer. And if you take the long game, ultimately at some point you'll retire. That's still many decades out. You might want to sell your practice. It's much harder to sell an old practice with old equipment than something that's state of the art,
100%.
right? So I think there are aspects in here that are underlooked in this entire conversation.
100%. Dan, apart from the cost thing, and you mentioned education, any other kind of things that stick out with dentistry? I'm fascinated because you're like fresh eyes, and you've obviously had an amazing career and history in medical. When you see dentistry, is anything that like sticks out to you as bizarre?
Well, I actually, no,
we're not going to offend the dentist. I'm curious.
No, but I think Max said it well. It is such an all-encompassing position, unlike a spine surgeon who's going to come into an OR and there's a hospital that has established everything and the staff from the hospital, those type of things. You are building all of that. So not only are you treating a patient, you're deciding on the treatment path, you're building the infrastructure and the staff and the training. And so that all-encompassing thing truly is entrepreneurial. I would agree with you, and challenging beyond something that I would understand in my seat. So really what it is a level of respect of it is such a broad position where you're wearing many hats. If we can help you do that better and, with less decisions and stronger outcomes, all the better. So I think that's the biggest differentiator. At the end of the day, there's a patient and all of us want to use our skills to make that person better. That's the same, right? Just different parts of the body, but still as important along those ways. And I've learned a long time ago that I don't have the skill for either, but I can get those products in your hands and you're the one that's going to make the difference. So my job is simply, how do I get innovation into your hands that helps a patient? And that is the same as spine.
That's interesting.
We're tool makers at the end of the day, right? That's what we are.
German tool makers. And you were saying about the innovation. In particular, when you look at the DS portfolio, is there anything that you're particularly focused on? Or that you're particularly interested in, one or the other?
No, it's a great question. And so when you actually get into the fact that we're driving DS Core and using it as a platform that allows you to go get images on the platform and transfer them into your planning software, into your milling, into the patient, I love that ecosystem holistic connection, that seamless flow. It triggered with exactly where we were with spine and what we were doing with all of those things, bigger machines. But nonetheless, I saw the improvement in treatments. I saw improved outcomes, and I recognize that's applicable here.
Because it takes guts. It's funny you mentioned respect to dentists. I respect you because it's a hard job. I respect Max as well. It's a very hard job. It takes guts genuinely because you are pioneering this in a way in dental. I mean, there's a lot of talk about cloud, but Dentsply Sirona is going all in. And something that you're going to face resistance as all people, resist to change.
Right.
But it's fascinating to see the company's vision that this is it, burn the boats. We're going all in cloud, and this is the future of healthcare.
I think I want to give you one little analogy or anecdote because we're celebrating 40 years of CEREC, right? So one coincidence. So our head of product management for DS Core, Wolf, great guy. He joined the company a little bit after I joined. And then he realized, he's always staying with his uncle when he's staying in Bensheim. And then he started chatting with his uncle. What does he actually do? He knew his uncle had worked at Dentsply Sirona as well. And then they started talking. Turns out his uncle was the lead engineer on the camera from the first CEREC.
Really?
That's crazy.
And he didn't know that.
That's incredible.
And then they started about talking comparisons, right? And he's like, DS Core and CEREC have parallels. Because when CEREC 1 came out, it couldn't do very much, right? And it took people with guts to say, this is going to work. We will make chairside restorations. And there was a core group of people who were really into it, but it took a long time for it to actually take off. Right now, DS Core is doing that much faster, but also at the beginning couldn't do very much, right? It basically was a Dropbox for intraoral scans and x-rays, and then you keep adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff and adding stuff, right? So there's an analogy to say change always starts with something small and basic, and then it gets built out. And you have to play the long game. Short term would have been much easier to just, let's make a better CEREC or a better Sidexis or better whatever. But then you would not have been able to overcome all the old technical debt that you accumulate over decades. And sometimes you have to start fresh. Yeah. Like you said, right? The house building, you're buying an old house. First, you have to replace the pipes. The wiring is crappy. Maybe somebody put asbestos in the roof in the 70s. Maybe the foundation is crappy, and you have to fix all of that while your partner wants to discuss the interior design of the kitchen. And I think you first have to fix the foundations, and then you can rapidly build out and make things better. And that, I think, is where we're on. And the analogy that Dan was given from spine, I think is the same thing. You got to build an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're in that position now where you're happy with how the foundations are?
Oh yeah, I think the foundations are very solid. Can always get better. There's always feedback that we get. We can learn faster. We can deploy faster. But we now have more than 50,000 practices and labs on it.
It's incredible.
More than 60,000 devices connected to it, scanners, mills, printers, x-rays, integrating with more and more other partners, right? I named a few of them. We see that the number of orders that go to labs through the platform is really going up very rapidly, and it's a truly global setup, right? And it's an amazing thing. Now we can always do better, and there's a lot of things. In hindsight, you're always smarter. Would I have done everything exactly the same way over the last 4 or 5 years? No, definitely not. But you only know that afterwards, right? And take the PrimeScan 2. The PrimeScan 2 was the hardest device to bring into the cloud. Why? You have a lot of data, and you have to get a real-time feedback loop back into it. The fact that this works is incredible.
It is.
But if it works for that, it's also going to work for X-ray. It's also going to work for milling. It's also going to work for printing because it was the hardest one to resolve, right? And that gives us a lot of confidence that we're on the right track.
Have you seen the live scanning on the PS2? I'm sure you've seen it many times.
I have.
Mind-blowing, right?
It is great. It is amazing, right? And to think about where that's going to be even over the next 3 to 5 years as you learn and improve and get faster, you have better materials to work with. It's just, again, it's the beginning of where we're going to go in the future, all of us.
I guess for both of you, I was going to say like a 5-year vision of where you think DS Core is going to go to, but 5 years is too long these days.
It is.
Digital dentistry moves way too fast. Yeah. Let's say 1 year. What are you most excited about, Max?
Okay, let's go Dan first.
Wow. Okay.
I was
going to give him some time.
I was going to steal Max's answer, saying me too.
Put him on the hot seat.
No, not at all. Look, I think within the year, it's actually us not promising things, but delivering things and creating more predictable functionality that's going to add value to you and your patients. That's within 1 year. I think within 3 years, getting this to be such a natural part, you can't imagine not having it, just like your smartphone. You can't live without it. That's where we want to be with these type things. Beyond that, I'll just tell you, having the ability to treat a patient from a remote location, you're sitting in New Zealand, there's someone in Colombia that needs your input, and you can actually go help that design and go do it and print on that machine. Fantastic. There's no reason why we can't globalize this and get your skill throughout the world over long term with these type of platforms.
Agreed. And you have examples. I mean, I think you're probably going to meet one of your colleagues here. He does work with a PrimeScan 2 in the middle of the Amazon, right? That shows it works, right? So, and I think, is there one thing that I'm most excited about? No, because it's about improvements every quarter. There need to be new functions in it. There's not the one big function that's going to do this, right? But it's about adding CEREC functionalities. Now you can do crowns, inlays, onlays on DS Core, but you can't do veneers yet, inlays, bridges. There's other stuff that needs to come in there. Then ultimately, of course, I want to have implant planning in there, right? That's kind of probably the most complex procedure in dentistry is a complete implant case, right? Because it has the implant planning, it needs CBCT, it has the scan, it has the restorative piece on it. It's a team thing between a specialist and a GP very often. The lab is involved. Then if you think about things like SureSmile or orthodontics, making that really integrated in it, thinking about what's the next generation of imaging, how can you make imaging better with the help of AI? So I think there's many different avenues. And we're working on all of those fronts because that's the blessing and the curse of being Dentsply Sirona. We have to think about everything that is in a dental practice.
Yeah, but what a power to have that entire range of products and harnessing them in one direction. It just puts you in such a good competitive spot over the long term if you're willing to take the steps needed.
100%, because we're also seeing some consolidation happen in dentistry. I'm curious if you saw that in medical,
Yes.
where things just get really, really big. Like now, me and Max have talked about it a lot. There's over 30 intraoral scanners on the market. I think realistically we need 5.
I agree.
In medical, was it similar in different parts? Maybe not the robotics, because you said it was just starting
No,
up. But
it actually was. In fact, before I moved over, I had actually bought our number one competitor, and we created the number one spine company in the world doing that. So I was probably part of that issue, is consolidating down and growing
gobbled it up.
type of thing. And that was just a great opportunistic move that set up a powerful move. And, do I think that will happen in environments? Of course. You're going to have natural consolidation over time. There's going to be people who decide to spin out. My eye's more on PE and their entry in, and just, watching that, because ultimately us standing alone and our willingness to invest is a different model than PE. And we just want to make sure that we stay invested in the best solution, not profit driven. I think when we do the right thing through you, those type of financial things follow. They're not the driver, they're the result. And I just want to make sure we as a company remember that and stay in this competitive environment focused on you and on the patient.
Because it's very competitive, probably more so than ever before. And it's funny you mentioned PE, because they've already entered. They bought Medit a while ago, and that kind of didn't go so well. They paid a lot.
Yeah.
But it's funny how these things are happening in dental. And it's going to be fascinating to see who kind of ducks out, because the level of R&D and innovation you guys spend, I don't think the kind of middle tier or low tier guys can compete long term.
Agree.
With what you're building, it's going to be very clear, in my eyes at least, because all scanners now scan well. 5 years ago, they didn't. There was clear fast scanners and middle scanners, but now they're all basically okay, at the very least. But now you're having different companies like you creating platforms. It's very hard to just create a platform. Maybe it's easy to create a fast scanner, but to create a whole platform is a whole different beast.
Yeah, and that's the power of connection, right? Individual silos, a lot of people can make a great individual product. Bring them together, that's the hard part, right? And I think Dan said at the beginning, you have to start from the customer. And if you look at a dental practice P&L, biggest cost is labor, followed by what people spend on lab fees, followed by consumables, followed by rent, IT, and all the other stuff. And then there's a tiny little bit of equipment because you buy equipment and it lives 5, 7, 10 years, right? So if it's really good and it helps you increase your revenue, grow your practice through additional procedures, or to lower your costs on the other buckets, then it's worth it. And that's what it is about, right? And of course, ultimately, dentistry is then about the implant, the endophile, the crown material, right? I mean,
or more commonly now, software as a service.
Yes,
that's what most hardware companies are pivoting towards, which is, dentists would just have to accept the fact that subscriptions are going to be a part of the game. But of course, as the kind of hardware gravy train runs out, because scanners are not so easy to sell, businesses, I guess, need to make money, and you have to pivot into other services. Is that kind of...
I think it's more about actually expanding access, right? I think that's what it's more about. I don't think it's more about a new revenue stream. It's more about a shift. You think about a CEREC software, a lot of people pay $20,000 for that, right? I mean, that's a big investment to make. If you subscribe to something that gives you those functionalities, but you avoid that big investment at the beginning, that's a better business case for many practices to actually adopt this.
I agree fully. I think the ability to spread that out over time as you're doing the procedures and getting it there is a great option for folks, especially if you're starting up a business and we can put that technology in your hands and say, as you go through, we'll come with you, right? Because we're not looking for the one-off sale. We're looking for the long-term relationship.
I think what's also fascinating about the cloud is how flexible you can be with your offerings, prices. It can be very modular. I mean, me and Max talked about it yesterday about in-lab, and eventually, what's the plan with that? long term, and how that can move to the cloud and all sorts of different things. And I think that's what's really exciting, is just how much flexibility you guys have to offer the right solution for the right customer. Okay. I guess while we wrap up in the next 5 to 10 minutes, Dan, one last question for you before we get into all the releases again, because I really want to talk about the 3D printing thing.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of Dentsply Sirona right now and everything you're seeing get released today, is there any particular one product that, jumps out to you, or you think this is the most exciting thing for today? Because a lot is being released.
You're asking which child do I love more?
Yeah, everyone loves one the most,
right? It's I think certainly CEREC getting on core is a big thing for me. I love really where we're going with imaging and getting into the cloud. I think that's very powerful along those lines. So it's tough. I think it's really the whole movement into where we're going to be. These are simple steps along the way. They're not the ultimate finishing line here. I think I'm excited the fact that we have them today. We're going to learn from them and grow from them. That's really what excites me. And they'll all go in a little bit different directions, and we'll be smarter and better having launched these in treating things in the future.
I guess that's a good segue to what's being released. So
yeah, I mean, how much time do we have?
We've got probably another 5-10 minutes. I don't know, Dan, how much time?
No, I think it's also, I mean, we talked about innovation being part of the DNA. And I think if you look at the breadth of releases that DS has every year, it's actually really astonishing. So what are the highlights this year? There's obviously CEREC on core, so the ability to design directly in DS core crowns, inlays, onlays from anywhere in the world directly in a DS core account with additional AI functions, a better prep margin finder, improved algorithms on the crown, a workflow system
better
that
UI.
also starts to, yes, of course, better UI,
so
right?
For people who don't know, it's not when I first heard about CEREC on core, I thought it was just going to be a port. Like it's just going to look like CEREC, but it's actually reimagined. You guys have actually rethought it. I mean, it still feels familiar, but it's not an exact copy-paste. You don't have the same work. It's the same workflow, but different. It feels a lot more modernized.
We did a lot of research in terms of how does the UI work today so that people who are used to something which they like can follow that journey, but also how can we make it better, right? And it's actually a redevelopment, right? It's not like some other solutions where somebody said, let's take the on-prem thing, shift it over to the cloud, and now you can do it in the cloud. I mean, that's
works
cloud light.
It works a little bit different to CEREC as well, in the sense that because I've been using it for about a month, and with CEREC you finish the acquisition phase and then you go next. With this, you kind of finish the acquisition phase and then you're basically straight into the design.
Yes.
Even the workflow has changed quite a bit, and I was really happy to see that. I was hoping that you guys weren't going to make it an app or something like that. I really wanted it to be a seamless workflow where you scan, you're in.
And that's exactly right. And it also gives you additional options to delegate, right? And to do it from where? Today you're stuck to a design station. I was talking to a dentist in Germany, and she said, for the first time in 30 years, I did my CEREC designs from home. I actually worked from home for half a day. Could never do that before. And that's one of the little things. So that's the CEREC side, right?
Why was she doing same-day dentistry? No, I'm just joking. We'll just say it was a rehab case or something.
And then there's the entire imaging and diagnosis piece, right? So DS Core Diagnosis is out. That gives you the ability to do measurements, annotations, everything on 3D images directly in DS Core with an automatic pen curve proposal. That's AI.
Do you think that's the future? Just on that topic, sorry to interrupt you again. Do you think that's the future? Definitely, like every single X-ray in the future will be read by an AI? Because it's a very interesting thing. So. Like a lot of AI companies are entering dental. And again, Dan, back to you, I'm really curious of how AI has entered medical, but that's a whole different discussion. But like a lot of AI companies have entered dental, and I think we all see the advantages of AI reading X-rays. It's objective. It doesn't have bad days. But you don't really see the adoption.
It takes time. It takes time. And first of all, there's always resistance to change. It's the first thing. Secondly, a lot of solutions are expensive, right? To talk about subscriptions, very often the 2D AI subscription costs 5 times more than DS Core. And then people are like, DS Core is so expensive. I'm like, have you looked there? Right? So that's one piece. And the other piece is there's a certain fear about AI, right? And I see it as it's an assistant.
Yes.
So basically, if you think about diagnosis, the software should not make the diagnosis. What it does is look here, look there. There's a certain chance that here is an inflammation or whatnot, but dear doctor, It's your final judgment. And if you think it in this way, then it actually makes you a better dentist, and it focuses your eye on the areas of interest. And if you do the comparison to medical, I worked for Siemens for 12 years. It's the same thing in computer tomography, right? What are some of the most boring things that radiologists do is, how big is this lesion? How many lesions are there, right? Counting things, measuring them. That's not why you study radiology, right? You want to be a radiologist to actually do the diagnosis and not to do routine stuff. That's something the AI can do for you. So I'm absolutely convinced that long-term, every image will have an AI run over it, but you're not going to think about it as AI, right? It's because it's another tool like math.
I think one thing is, for me as a clinician, one key thing to adopting AI is that it has to be integrated. And that's something that's really cool what you guys can do with DS Core, of course. If all the images are there, to me, it has to be automatic.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of AI tools out there. And if there's no integration, there's no way in hell I'm going to sit there exporting x-rays and then uploading them to a browser. I need it to be, I take the x-ray and the AI is there. I don't want to upload anything. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to export
You want it to be a seamless part of the procedure.
Exactly. It has to be seamless. I don't even want to think about it.
And that's why you have to think cloud first, because AI without cloud doesn't work. Right? Think about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not something that you install in your computer, right? It's
NVIDIA just invested like $100 billion into data centers for them, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that's using the computing power, right? And you can only get to a seamless workflow if everything eventually runs in one system.
Yeah.
And that cannot be achieved with siloed
I'd build on that too, right? Because for AI to be more effective and efficient, it has to look at thousands of images in order to tell you to look here or there. And for you having that on a local server or a PC is pretty unlikely, whereas in the cloud, you can build on this and really get a massive database that can even make this more powerful that way.
And you got to keep training and learning, right?
Yes.
And you got to focus on what's the most attractive things that need to be improved, right? One area where I don't think there's so much improvement still to be had is crown design. The crown proposals are great.
I agree.
If you now spend on making an even better crown algorithm, people are going to be, but the old crown was already good. Why did you spend all this money and now you're telling me it's a better crown algorithm, right? I think you got to focus on what are the unresolved things. Implant planning is a classic thing, or things like night guards or ortho. If it gets more complex, there's still more room to automate, to improve, to suggest. Diagnosis is a key area, but let's focus on improving the things which need improving the most.
Okay, so I cut you off, and apologies. So that's the diagnostics, and then we have the mills.
Then with the mills, yes, the mills are a big step forward for us as well, right? So besides just having a 4-motor prime mill, there's a 2-motor prime mill now, and an entry-level composite mill, which we call CEREC Go, and that's the one that you're keen about, right?
I'm like shaking here. I want to get into it.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. Like, actually, we had a lot of conversations about composite milling, Ahmad and I, and because we talk about printing and milling, it's an evergreen discussion for us.
Was this a direct response to printing?
No, I think it's inspired by printing.
Okay, no, fair, cool. So definitely, you're just trying to take the battle to them and be like, here you go, here's a better solution.
No, I think it's about expanding access to chairside milling and using the technology for what it's really good for, right? Because restorations are about relatively constrained geometries. A crown is not a difficult, complex shape. A night guard or an aligner, that's a difficult, complex shape. And you want it to be long-lasting and hard, right? That's the other key thing. So if it's long-lasting, hard, and you want it's a constrained space, a mill is a great solution to do that.
100%. Because
you have a medical-grade material, and you're chipping away from it, and then you have a final thing in minutes. It's great. And there's one piece that's about going back to the origins of CEREC. CEREC was invented to do chairside inlays and onlays, to replace class 2 restorations. And then it transformed into this great crown machine. But actually, and I think that's where printing also inspired us to say, well, inlays and onlays and class 2, that's all composite, right? And class 2 is a difficult procedure if you have a complex case, right? I mean, you have the layering, air bubbles, all the other stuff. An inlay or an onlay may be the better solution. And if you can do that fast, in minutes, and you just place it in there. It goes also directly into the standardization topic that Dan was talking about, particularly if you're running a practice with multiple dentists. You want to have repeatable, standardized outcomes. That's what it's a really great tool for, right? And to make it more affordable by saying, hey, look, this is for composites, for proven materials like a GC Sarah Smart, which has a great flexural strength, which is used a lot in Japan, in France, and so
I think
forth.
it's more than most printables.
Yes, it's double, right? Most printables are 120 to 150. This is 270, right? So it's a different ballpark.
Yeah. The one thing, too, I'd throw out there, and I had run manufacturing back in med device, and certainly we had lots of mills, we had lots of 3D printers.
Fascinating.
There will be room for both in the future. There'll never be one that replaces the other. You're always going to want to have one that's milled. You may have something else that is printed. Yeah. You need to be in both. They'll both get faster, smaller, cheaper over time, but I wouldn't pick one. I think you want to have the ability to have both as an answer in the future that are just there, and then you decide, off you go, and then you make that.
And I think the modern dental practice, I mean, if I was going to build one, you'd have both.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You definitely wouldn't it's not team printing versus team milling. But the issue is, just like you guys say, because dentists are mum and pop shops, they tend to just want to invest in one thing and get the golden goose that will do everything, which is, it's hard to do.
Yeah, and then you have constraints if you do that, right? So, but CEREC Go, ballpark $25,000 to $30,000. You don't need a furnace because you don't need heat treatment. If you have a prime scan or a Trios and you have the CEREC design, that's the entire investment you need to make. And that's an easiest entry into chairside milling that you ever had.
And I think that's a massive milestone, not just because of this kind of fascinating thing that's happening with milling and printing, but also this must be one of the most affordable Dentsply mills ever released.
Yeah, I think it is.
That's incredible.
It's for
good for dentists.
It is.
Entry level, backup, temporaries, and replacing class 2 restorations, right? Because composite has a place in dentistry. In class 2 and inlays and onlays. And for temporaries. But my key thing my key thing is always like, if composite crowns would be such a big hit, why does no dentist order composite crowns from a lab?
Yeah, I agree. On that little lab form, why don't we tick composite crown? Why do we always tick zirconia and Emax?
Yes.
I don't know. That's a challenging question. I'm going to ask the 3D printing guys that. But look, I really appreciate your time, guys. And I guess just two more questions, because I'm loving this. Dan, in MedSpace, you said you had experience with printing and milling. Did you find one or the other kind of... What was the reason that you used one or the other? Was it the customized stuff needed printing, or what was... I know that might be a broad question, and I may have no idea what I'm talking about.
So certainly milling was obviously the key within all of that manufacturing. I feel like it was 7 years ago, we realized that 3D printing will someday be a standard. And if we didn't start there and learn there and scale up, we would be at a disadvantage. So part of it was seeing where the market will go and being one of the first in to do it. What we had learned, to your point, is it allows for customization. And also we realized we could start making stronger and stronger components out of these things. And so to me, it was about a learning journey, because someday they'll be small and fast enough to be in an operating room, and you may actually place spinal implants and actually print them right in the OR and into the patient as possible. So I wanted to be ahead of that curve in doing it. We created a factory bigger than this building to make those things. But I realized someone will laugh at that 50 years from now because it'll be as big as this table. But you had to start. And I think that's the whole thing, is if you're going to be on a journey, you need to take that first step. Yeah. Even if you trip a little bit, so you get up and keep moving. And you learn from those things, you become better at it.
But your vision, there's definitely a space for both.
There is absolutely.
Printing will not replace milling completely.
I would be stunned. I think that ultimately you're going to make a decision that it's better to do subtractive versus additive, or vice versa. And that should be your decision point, not mine.
100%. It's like, I'll give you another anecdote. So when I was at Siemens in 2017, I actually had a chance to work on the overall 3D printing strategy for Siemens, right? Not Siemens Healthineers, but the overall company, right? Looking at how do we use it in-house?
Crazy.
What kind of offerings do we develop? Should it be software? Should we go into printers? Is it components and so forth? So we went through the entire stack of all the different 3D printing manufacturers, right? Because it's not just DLP printing, which we do in dental today, right? There's metal sintering, there's powder bed fusion, you can print tissue. It's a really broad stack of technologies, and it's a really important technology to be invested in and to explore how it's going to evolve and to know what you're using it for, right? It has inherent advantages for complex shapes, for something which you maybe don't want to stock spare parts, for example, in other industries is a key use case for 3D printing. And there are things where it's just about repeatable, standard parts that you want to make in high volume for which you have a great subtractive solution, as Dan said. And so I think it's a bit like radio didn't go away because TV came, you know?
They all found their own niche. Okay, gentlemen, look, once again, I'm very thankful for your time. I guess in the last closing statements, it's a big day for you coming up, big 2 days at DS World Las Vegas 2025. And again, a big congratulations. The event looks amazing. What would be your final statements for any dentists out there? Dan,
I appreciate that. Thanks. Just a realization that we're only here because they're there doing what they do. We have to do a better job of focusing on the patient and on the dentist. I see that, this early on. And I think you'll see that change come fast through us as we make sure we refocus on the patient in the chair through the dentist and less struggling internally for decisions. We got to move faster. We got to be better. And I see this opportunity is amazing. We have to make that change to realize that.
For me, it's, I think, lean in, right? Dentistry and dental technology is shaped by its users, like yourself, like Dan Butterman, like others. We co-evolve, we co-invent things. And that also requires trying out stuff, right? Dentistry is something physical and tactile. Get your hands on the technologies and see how it adds value to your practice. Then you can make an informed decision. So I also thank you for being someone who educates across the different things, because I think it's people like you that make it possible for people to engage.
And my 2 cents, guys, would be, look, dentistry is changing. It's changing very fast. I mean, the world is changing, and I don't think we have any other way but to embrace technology. But once again, thank you, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this discussion with you, especially I'm sure you guys are so busy with this huge event. But that is everything for this episode of the Digital Dentistry Decoded podcast, guys. Thank you for listening. Check out all the releases by Dentsply Sirona. They had a massive event here in Las Vegas. Like, comment, subscribe, and share it with your colleagues. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ahmad.